going to talk about field goals and a little bit of history of kicking and in scoring in football. Now, if you're a coach or a player, some of this information is going to be old school for you. You know it, you teach it, you've done it. For the person who's new to the game, you might not understand, and I know sometimes people can get confused and they don't know the difference between an extra point and a field goal. So we're going to clarify that today, and I'm going to present hopefully some very interesting information for you. Okay, so let's start with where kicking comes from. The game of football came from soccer and a blend of rugby, and kicking was the integral part of those games. And it is still so today. In fact, many coaches consider it a third of the game. In 1869, when they first started playing a form of organized football in the United States, all goals were 1 point. Whether you carried it across or you kicked it, all scoring was 1 point. And that held up till about 1876. And then in 1833, field goals started getting additional points. Here's the unique thing is that in 1883, a field goal was actually worth more points than a touchdown. In 1883, it was 5 points. In 84, it went to 4. 97, back to 5. 1904, back to 4 points. But in 1909, 3 points was established for a field goal. Now, here's an interesting fact. In 1876, a ball that flew through the air and hit the goalpost, whether it went through or not, was a dead ball. So if it bounced through, it was dead, no score. That rule changed in 1881. So since 1881, the ball has been able to bounce through the goalpost. Now, let's talk about the goalpost. Well, a goalpost is for college and professional, and in high school, the crossbar is exactly 10 feet above the ground. For college and pro, the uprights, the distance between is 18 feet 6 inches. For high school, it's a little bit more than 23 feet. And back in the day, the goalpost had the upright had a minimum height of 23. Today in NFL college, it's 20. But here is a unique piece of information. The dimensions of the goalpost have not changed over the last 144 years. The dimensions today are the same as they were in 1876. All right, now let's look at the kicking game as we see it today. Kicking for points. There are 2 ways to kick for points in American football today. And if you're a novice to the game, you may get confused sometimes. There is the point after touchdown, also called an extra point or the conversion. And then there's the kick from the field, which is 3 points. How would a beginner to the game understand which was which? Well, if somebody scores a touchdown, the crowd is screaming and the band is playing and the team goes out, that's going to be, the kicking team goes out, that's the point after the touchdown. Remember, that's when the band is playing. For a field goal, it's going to be 3 points, and they're not near the goal line. They're usually out on the field further away, and it's no touchdown involved. They're just trying to kick for 3 points. Now, here are some things that must work together for a successful kick. First of all, you got to have the team blocking for you. The blockers all line up. This is a very typical kicking formation. Their job is to keep the defense from running through to block the kick. Now, here is something that some people don't realize. 7 yards is not an arbitrary number. 7 yards is where the holder will place the ball, and that's 7 yards from the ball. It has been found that this is the optimal distance. If you are closer than 7 yards, these guys on the defense can get through and block it just by raising their hands. If you're further than 7 yards, the angles here will allow the guys from the outside to come through and block it. So 7 yards is the optimal distance. Now, there are 3 people, once that ball has been, once the lineup has been set, that are involved. Everybody likes to blame the kicker when the kick is missed, but there could be other factors. Number 1, the snapper. he is viewing the world upside down because he is looking through his legs upside down, and there are rules to protect him because his head is down. He must snap the ball, and it must be on target to the hands of the holder because that holder must catch the ball and set it on the ground. And they like to get the laces pointing forward so the kicker has a clean place to kick. And then, of course, the kicker will come through and kick the ball. We like to blame the kicker, but it could be a bad block, it could be a bad snap, or it could be a bad hold. Now, here is the other thing that a lot of people don't realize with the kicking game like this. All of this, from snap to kick, must happen in 1.2 seconds, or the kick will most likely be blocked. So when you see those guys go out on the field, it is a highly technical, collaborative effort to get that extra point or field goal. Now, one last bit of information. What are the farthest kicks? So, in the rule book, the longest recorded kicks for high school, 68 yards. For college, 69. And for the NFL, it is 64. The longest drop kick, and that is an old school way, an old style way where they would take the ball, drop it, and just as it bounced up from the ground, they kicked it, is 55 yards. There is one guy who kicked a 56-yarder with no pressure. So with that, I hope you learned something about the history of the kicking game.